Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Goldfish. If you don't know who I am, I do Reddit videos. More on dramas, more on fantasies too, and more on horror stories too, if you guys want. And today we're gonna be reading out some r/slash nuclear revenge stories. If you like these kind of videos, drop a like and subscribe. So yeah, let's do this. Let's go on to the first story. The first one here is by Wolfie's Back in Black, which is titled Revenge by My Dad on the Man Who Harassed His Sister. I lost my dad 20 days ago. The hurt is fresh, not sure of the legality, but since dad is gone, I guess the story can't harm anyone anymore. My dad was my hero in more than ways than one. He was a wonderful storyteller, and there are so many stories about him. Here's one that is my personal favorite. My dad is the youngest of 9 siblings. He had 6 brothers and 2 sisters. He loved his siblings, and as the youngest sibling, he was loved and pampered. One thing that me and him share the most is our short temper. As a young man, my dad was known to be volatile. When he was 19, his second older sister, let's call her C, was married to a military man. He was mostly posted on the border. We're Indians. This meant my Auntie C was living with the in-laws, like many women in India still do. The problem was her older brother-in-law, let's call him A for a-hole. He was a goon, an extortionist, an abuser, and yes, an R-word. He was scary. He was known for being physically imposing at 6'8", well-built, and was unbeatable in fights. No woman was safe when he was around. After my Aunt C got married to her husband, the nasty brother-in-law, A, set his eyes on her. He began harassing her, forcing her to sleep with him. The family did nothing to do to protect her. This went on for weeks. She was tired of fighting and was totally shattered emotionally. One day, she found the courage to talk about it to one of her older nephews who was 18 at the time. He went home to my dad and broken down how she was suffering and how her honor and life was at risk. This enraged my dad, but he realized that he would be able to take down the monster that A is all by himself. He gathered his friends, his older nephews, and together hatched a plan. Actually, they had no plan. The plan was to beat the crap out of A, to send him a message. But they wouldn't be able to do this when he was sober, so they waited for the evening when he was usually drunk. My dad and his friends drank as well, full of good courage. They then waited for him in the dark roads of their village, which still has sketchy electricity. Then they pounced on him as soon as they had the chance. It was 6 young and drunk fools against this one mountain of a guy. While drunk, he was still able to fight well. A also had a bunch of minions who, unknown to my dad, were right behind him. It became a free-for-all fight. My dad, drunk, and in the frenzy of the fight, grabbed a piece of wood he found on the road, hit A with all his might, straight on the head, and then my dad and his friends ran off because somebody had called back for backup, and these young lads weren't sober enough to come up with a plan or a sane idea. Dad somehow made it home, showered and slept. Next day, he told his mom that gone to a fighting prep went down. As he was telling his mom what happened, Dad was informed by his brother that cops were looking for him. Grandma told Dad to lay low for a while. Unfortunately, A made it to the hospital and was able to give a statement. Dad was on the run for a bit, but later surrendered because according to him, I was tired of eating crappy food. They honest to God surrendered to cops and demanded a good meal. Wow. The case was dismissed and A did manage to live, but didn't live for long. The injury my dad gave him chased him to the grave in a few months. This story is something Dad always liked to tell. He has zero remorse for what happened to A because, in his words, not a single woman was harmed or abused in their village after this incident. I miss my dad, and I am sure he had more such stories, but I will never know them. Well, that story was interesting. I'd have to say, I think A did deserve it, and I hope your dad rest in peace. Okay, on to the next story. The next story we have here is by Darling Darcy. This name got fired, reported them to OSHA, and destroyed the family business and made them leave town.
So, a while back, I'd been hired to be the marketing person for a family business. It was a fitness equipment liquidator that had been founded by a gold medalist Olympian. He had fallen into some mental health issues and had delegated his wife to take over the business. She didn't have the experience but took the reins anyway, and she and her children ran the place, albeit with some success. So this is where I come in. The first red flag I should have seen was that she was trying to screw over the recruiter by wanting us to do a side deal to pay me technically less, but still more than I would have gotten without the recruiter as the middle person. But I was in bed and I didn't think too much about it. The next thing was how embedded the family aspect was in this business, that there was basically no distinction between the employees, the family, and family affairs being wrapped up in their work environment too. I was just finally happy to be in a space where I felt welcome and almost love bombed by the CEO, who treated me like one of her own children. Always lots of hugs and even kisses during good morning meetings, as if we were coming downstairs for breakfast. Meetings ended up turning to brainstorming sessions because the CEO's children and the workers were so scatterbrained and didn't want to commit to any specific plans of action. And I was basically on my own when it came to any marketing of anything because nobody would actually participate if it came down to it. About a month or so into it, I got ambushed by the CEO and her daughter, who was like the operations person, technically, or something. Both were wondering why you haven't achieved as much as I had wanted to. And when I explained that I didn't really receive much help or participation from anyone, suddenly it became all about blaming me for everything wrong and why sales were down, and why nothing was exponentially growing as she had hoped they would. I explained what actions I'd taken, that I was doing exactly what said I was doing to do. It wasn't my fault nobody wanted to help when they said they would. It didn't matter. They wanted me gone because they expected the moon in 3 weeks' time with zero budget and zero help from anyone else. So, I just left. I want to add I did a lot while I was there. I automated a lot of their processes that they were doing by hand, set up Salesforces and Slack, as well as setting up and handling Zendesk and the ticketing system, and even automating a lot of POS processes so that from card tap to accounting, it was all smooth and seamless. And I made tons of things very efficient for them and improved productivity while there. But none of that mattered, of course. I mean, come on, they wanted to double the sales from basically social media posting and nothing else. While I was there, I documented a ton of OSHA violations, like exposed wires where customers would walk, ADA violations, customer safety violations, forklifts operated with zero certifications, and no PPE, and having employees standing on top of forks just to reach the warehouse ceiling, with no safety or anything. Structural violations, I mean, you name it, they did landlord special type fixes and left things in often worse states than before. I made the call and sent OSHA photos of what I had documented, which I had only documented in the event of needing to use it. Never actually expected to come to that, but I did. After talking with him, he explained to me that there was months-long processes to get action to be taken, even with evidence. The penalties for the violations I had evidence for with financially crippling fines, I knew they wouldn't even be able to handle. And after months of checking every now and then, I got confirmation action was taken. And then a couple of months later, I drove past the warehouse slash showroom and saw that it was abandoned. Broken letters, overgrown grass in the parking lot, boarded up windows and doors for lease, all gone and dilapidated. While I was placing those calls, I also reached out to my realtor friends who is super good at what she does, saying we should time it right so after these fines and penalties that she can drop literature off at their store till they're convinced to sell. She didn't do it in time, but she did catch wind that the house had been sold and sold fast. Their website was 404, and they basically packed their bags and left. I still can't believe it worked. I mean, well, you know. But sometimes in life, you have to accept that we are karma that someone has coming to them. Goodbye, Amy. Wherever you are and your family left to, we're even. Well, I have to say, that was a really good story. You have to apologize for my voice. Well, I have to apologize for my voice. At that time, it was raspy and I was tired from recording for like, I guess, a couple of hours. I think it was 5 hours at most. But, anyways, um, yeah, Amy deserved it. And the company went bankrupt. And I was happy, and I'm happy for the OP. That's all. And the next story we have here is called Devastated Teen Snapped by Angry Ink Owl. So this isn't my story, but it's something I still kind of turn over a lot in my head whenever I think about it, and it's been several years. Trigger warning for animal cruelty. So, backstory, my very first year in college, I am at a party and get to talking with an acquaintance slash classmate of a friend. I was and still am pretty reasonable, so people tend to feel comfortable opening up around me, even if they don't know me well. And that's exactly what happened here. We were both definitely intoxicated, but this girl was definitely more drunk than I was. For whatever reason, we got on the topic of wild slash stupid things we did when we were younger. She then proceeded to tell me the story. I remember it so vividly. Her wording wasn't the most coherent due to her state, but so much of this is paraphrase. So, a few years prior, when she was in her mid to late teens, she had a cat. This cat was her best friend. She had helped her through some very dark times in her personal life. You get the picture. Well, one day, her cat unfortunately gets out, run across the neighbor's dog as they're presumably out on a walk. Dog snaps and mauls the cat to death. The dog apparently was known for displaying aggressive behaviors, but had never actually bitten anyone. And the owner was extremely defensive of it and pretty much blamed the girl because that's what happens when you have an outdoor cat or whatever. The girl is, well, understandably completely devastated and distraught. Family either wouldn't or couldn't afford any, well, to take some sort of legal actions at the time, so she decided to take matters into her own hand. The exact details were kind of hazy, but from what I could gather, she apparently blended together a bunch of ground meat with some sort of weed killer, stuffed it inside a hen carcass for good measure. I waited until it was dark and threw the whole thing over the neighbor's backyard fence. Sometime later, the owner is pounding on the door to her house, screaming that their dog was dead and knew it was her that did it. She vehemently denied it, and I guess she was both a minor at the time, and there technically was no way it could prove it was her, and nothing ever ended up coming of it. And she never told anyone in the neighborhood or in her family about what she had done. I was in complete shock when she wrapped it up. Left the party not long afterwards for unrelated reasons, of course, and only saw her briefly a handful of times after that before I moved campuses. So I never really got any more info on it out of her. I don't know if she even remembers telling the story anyway. I have very conflicted feelings about it, knowing what I know about herbicide poisoning, and that dog almost definitely did not die a peaceful death. And the lack of even the barest shed of remorse in her voice was chilling. I'm about as pro revenge as you can get, and I can't say I haven't had some pretty fucked up revenge plans in the past, but god damn, very glad never knew her well enough to get her on the bad side. Well, OP, I would have to say I'd be pretty damn scared too, and I would probably be scared over too. Well, anyways, that's all of it now, and I hope you all enjoy the stories I've read to you. And yeah, peace out. This is Mr. Goldfish signing out.